I believe that, the folklore, we're talking about witchcraft, you're talking about vampires, all those things. I think you don't just, it's something that's happened over such a long time and it's such a reiteration that I don't think it's just
stories.
I don't think it's just make-believe.
Awesome, my name is Ben.
Okay, Tatenda.
Tatenda?
Yeah.
Okay, can you spell that for me?
T-A-T-E.
T-A-T-E.
N-D-A.
N-D-A.
Yeah.
Tatenda. Cool. So nice to meet you.
Same.
Okay, so you mentioned that you've got this belief about the supernatural. Just because we cannot perceive something doesn't mean we can necessarily discount somebody else's.
Okay, think of it this way. Can you see the wind?
I can't see the wind, no.
But does it not exist?
It does?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think it's just maybe because the limitations to what technically how we are biologically set up to see things doesn't mean they don't exist. We can feel the wind. You can touch that. That's something you can see. But just because you don't see the wind does not mean
it isn't really there. Okay. Is there something specific, some specific supernatural topic which is kind of your pet one, which is to you very interesting?
I believe that the folklore, we're talking about witchcraft, you're talking about vampires, all those things. I think you don't just, it's something that's happened over such a long time and it's such a reiteration that I don't think it's just
stories.
I don't think it's just make-believe. Obviously there's something which is different, like Star Trek and Star Wars. That's just crazy. That's science fiction. That's obvious.
Yeah.
But this is something which has links back to the Catholic Church, back in the if you really try to get deep into it, it goes way back. And I just don't think it's just something someone just woke up and said,
today.
I think I'm just gonna say, if witches exist and people can fly around in brooms and people can make up potions and just I don't think it's just it's
cool. Okay,
I might have an over-imaginative mind, so always thinking about things which I'm not even supposed to think about. But I try really not to think about them.
What's the fun of having a mind if you can't waste your thoughts on things like that?
Because it questions the concept of existence. Okay, because right now, look at your hand, right?
Yeah.
Look around you. You can see this is what you're seeing right now, right?
Oh, can you?
It's a bit of a. Okay, think of your computer.
Okay.
There's so much that your computer can do, and then outside the boundaries for which it was programmed, it cannot perform the task. So let's say you're trying to use a calculator to take a picture. That's not going to happen because it's a calculator.
Yeah.
It's only designed to do mathematical calculations, right? So how is this not just
potentially a simulation? It's an interesting question.
Think of it. You can't go to the top of that building and jump, because what's going to happen when you fall? You're going to die.
Yeah.
That's the limitation. You can only do so much that you're allowed, or at least programmed to do.
Yeah.
You go beyond that limitation, and then the concept of existence just fades
We're
away.
getting very existential here right now.
Exactly. So
so
these topics,
let's pull it back to this one, because I like this. I think it's very, gets you thinking.
Okay.
So folklore, and you mentioned like a bunch of different stories like witches, vampires.
Yeah.
What is your confidence that at least some of those beings exist on a scale of 0 to 100?
I think it's just, I always try to give a fair chance to everything. So I think it's a fair just because I don't know it doesn't, or at least just because I haven't seen it happen, or at least experienced it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think that's a very
concept as God. I can argue with both cases. I can tell you that there is no God, and I can try to support that.
Yeah.
Because you don't see him. There's just so many things. Yeah.
Okay.
You see kids in Syria, you see things happening, you see the bombings and the chemical. There's just so much happening, so much chaos in the world. You ask yourself, where is God in that situation?
Okay.
You could question the existence of God just based on that, and you could argue, and then people cannot debate, because technically your facts are facts.
Yeah. Awesome.
But also you can just believe just that just because then again, you don't see him doesn't mean he doesn't exist.
Okay.
It's called faith.
Let's do a little faith.
That's
that one
faith.
is I'm
Faith.
parking it there. It's going to sit there until we get to it. I'd like to do a little thought exercise.
Okay.
So if I told you I own a car, okay, right now your confidence 0 to 100, how confident are you that I actually own a car?
Based on the fact that I perceive that you wouldn't lie to me, I mean, why would you tell me that you have a car if you don't have a car? It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Unless I was a girl and I had maybe big boobs and there was cleavage and you're trying to impress me, then
Yeah.
in that scenario, then I might say, you know, you may be just trying to impress me. But then if you don't have a reason to lie, then yeah.
You'd give it 100%.
0 to 100.
100%.
100.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If I told you I own a BMW,
It's possible.
Still,
It's possible. I mean,
do you still give it 100%?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also a possibility you just own a bicycle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
So,
probabilities. I mean, we can go to probability.
Yeah.
That's a different case altogether.
so your confidence doesn't relate to the probability.
Probabilities are different. Okay, if you were to give me your background and just how you're raised and like your status of your parent or what you do for your living, then I can give you a probability of you owning a BMW
And then you would you proportion your confidence to the probability?
based on knowledge. Because I mean, you're right now giving me a very limited source of information, so I cannot deny or
Okay.
accept what you're telling me. But if you were to give me more background information, then definitely I can tell you.
Okay, tell me
So tell me if you would tell me that
background-
you have a paycheck of R1 million a month, and this is what you do, this is your expenses and stuff. And I can easily tell you, no, you don't even need to own a BMW. Maybe you actually need to go buy a Lamborghini, because I mean, enough
Dude, what are
budgeting, you can afford it.
Stop being such a freaking tightwad. So if you had more information, that would actually allow you to take a probabilistic approach,
Yeah.
where you would proportion your confidence to the probability, but lacking that information, do you default to 100%?
I have to default to 100%.
Okay, why?
It's my faith in human beings, man.
Okay.
I
If I-
always like to believe in the best in people.
Let me say
I mean-
this one. If I said I have a spaceship,
Based on what? I mean, that's when doubts. I mean, that's just limitations for human perception. Because I'm thinking, Albert Einstein was struggling to crack, the E is equals to MC squared equation. So I mean, I would obviously need more information. It's a spaceship. I mean, you're trying to be realistic.
So what would you give
I love
it?
science fiction, but that's spaceship. That's close to 0. I wouldn't completely eliminate the possibility.
But it'll be like that 0
I
point
watched the movie the
something
other time
something.
where there was a person, I forgot the title of the movie. The person posted an ad in the newspaper saying, "I'm looking for someone to travel to the future with." And I mean, if I was reading news, I would probably be like, "Yeah, this nigga is crazy," or "This guy or girl or whatever is crazy," because I mean, what's the likelihood? But given enough information,
how would you have seen it if you then looked in a paper from 7 weeks ago and you saw the same guy had an ad that said, "I just traveled 7 weeks back in time"?
But then again, also, traveling in time is all about perception. You travel from here to the moon and back. We measure the time we actually measure the clock you use when you go to the moon and back. You technically have traveled in time, because you're moving through space within a certain time, but we staying constant. So technically you've traveled to the future and back, so I cannot deny that.
It's interesting that. Have you ever seen that experiment on relativity?
I have.
Oh
The
man,
concept of relativity.
it's so
it's
cool.
very, very interesting.
And it's mind-boggling.
Very, very interesting concept.
Yeah, cool. Just we're jumping off that. It's left and right. It's awesome.
I have all these thoughts which are always just going through my mind. And so I just have to push them back as I
No, you should never, man. I mean, it's awesome.
It's questioning everything.
Exactly.
I feel like if you don't question things, then you tend to lack an understanding. The more you question, the more you try to knowledge yourself in all those aspects. And then
I read a quote recently which I really resonated with me, which said, you need to keep an open mind, but not to such a degree that your mind falls out.
That's true.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
So that approach you have, where you said, okay, cool, based on more information, then you would go to a probabilistic model. But prior to that, prior to having that confirmation that you can use for your probabilistic model, you jump to 100%.
Yeah, by default.
Is that one of the things which gives you such a high degree of confidence in the belief that these folklore entities exist?
I think in a simple way, that's the easiest way to put it. Yeah. I have no reason not to believe.
And I think that's a very good point.
But then again, I can argue both cases.
Yeah.
But I also don't have a reason not to believe.
On this, the folklore.
Yeah.
And just tell me if you don't want to do this scale.
Yeah,
but
cool, no problem.
What would you say is your confidence?
I think it's 100%.
100%.
I mean,
okay.
I've just.
Does that 100% mean it's impossible for them not to exist?
There's a likelihood they don't exist. So that makes my numbers a bit shaky. Let's put it at 99%. 99. But that's just how highly I think it's possible.
Okay.
Because I mean, okay, think of this way. Jesus. We technically didn't get to live during the time. There's just so many conflicting things, but still, there's sort of like a timeline which dates back to when he was living and when he was existent. And because information has been trickled down the line, down the years, I mean, it's gotten shaky because I mean, it's just past knowledge. That's understandable. But it still kind of points down to the same thing. You go to the Muslims. They say they believe in Muhammad, who is a messenger to. Okay, I have Muslim friends. I'm trying to. They explain this to me. They believe that Jesus was a prophet, not actually the Son of God.
And for Muhammad, Gabriel came down into the cave.
Precisely. So, you see, it's almost the same thing. It's just different. We Christians, or at least I'm a Christian, I believe that Jesus was the Son of God. Muslims believe that he was a prophet. And I mean, there's just such a slight deviation, but it kind of points out to the same thing. So because of that, I technically can't deny it, because I mean there's so many sources and they all link to the same thing. So you go back to the same thing, folklore. I mean,
but on Jesus, that's also again a very interesting
topic. Yeah, very controversial topic.
It's interesting that you mentioned. You get this.
By the way, I'm not comparing Jesus to.
No.
Yeah, let's just get that straight.
That's cool.
Because that's just something else. I mean, God might just strike me right now. I don't want that. So no.
Okay. So, but there we've got stories. Potentially initially. Word of mouth stories that were written down at some point, and those stories got passed down through generations, got translated from various languages, even when it eventually reached English, various dialects of English.
Because I mean, languages, it's so different. So the way I translate a word might be different to the way you. So I say something in my language, and then you try to translate it and understand it from your perspective of how you understand my language. And because of that, I mean something, but it doesn't always mean that's what you're gonna get.
And to me, it's such an interesting topic.
Which is why, I mean, if I was a historian, I'd be like, no, word of mouth is wrong because there's, and historians just say
you need a
word of mouth is not a good basis. It's not a good basis for history. But it's still.
If that is the case, right? So. If we say, well, there's these stories about Jesus, so it's reasonable to conclude that those stories had to start somewhere. Jesus did exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then again, you can also question that who wrote the Bible?
Okay.
Were they there when God made all these things? And then people will say, no, he had a vision and then God showed this all to him. And then we're like, but how can you compile so much information from so many different parts of the world at the same time? And people just say, I mean, Christians really want to be narrow-minded and say, someone got a vision, and I mean, they obviously linked up and they compiled this information, and then voila. It's a very simple way to explain how the Bible came to be. There's obviously, I mean, if I was a historian and then I was specializing obviously in Christianity and everything, I would understand it better. I just don't have that extent of knowledge.
Fair enough. Do you believe that everything that the Bible claims Jesus did happen exactly like that? Or do you think it's possible that some of it might have been...
Before I answer that question, I watch magic. Okay, I watch magic. I watch Chris Angel. I watch, what's his name?
Penn and Teller?
Yeah, I mean, just the range of them. And like the other time I was watching, what's his name? I forgot. There's a specific, I was watching.
David Blaine?
David Blaine, exactly.
Okay.
And how he was putting the it's sort of like a sharp. He came on the Daily Show because I was watching the Daily Show the other time, and he actually made Trevor Noah just poke his hand with a needle, and then he came out the other side, like literally it came through here and came out, no blood. And there's obviously a possibility that it's going to hit a vein and then it's just going to bleed out. It's another story. But he did that.
Yeah.
And you know, there are things that I believe are illusions, and there are things that I'm just like, no. I mean, there's just so much you can do as an illusion, and then there's
Yeah.
So when you look at things like magic in general, when it goes beyond just being tricks, because you have people who levitate and he's floating and there's nothing under him unless he is like magnetic shit, and that's still just a different thing altogether. I mean, science. And
have you looked at some of the magic shows where the guys actually go in depth and explain some of the tricks that they do? I don't know if you've ever seen.
Yeah, they do, but there's limitations. There's limitations to the kind of, like I said, there's like I just gave. I think the perfect
that one is
of the needle going through your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, do a quick experiment. Just take your hand, just bruise it against something. You're gonna bleed. It's just how our bodies work.
But let's take an example of something where you know how it works. When you first saw it, your mind was blown.
Okay, yeah. There's also that. So
yeah,
it's illusion. It's illusion. It's illusion. Come on to illusion.
And it's possible is it possible for somebody to see that magic trick, never see the way it's done,
and then never understand,
and always believe that there was this supernatural event that they witnessed?
Because I've seen some of the tricks, and then they actually explain them, and you're like, oh. But then because maybe they do it so fast, at least maybe because you're distracted by something else, which they make you focus on, then. Yeah, so I mean, it could be that they exaggerated. There's always the problem, which is why I'm saying word of mouth is a bit of a problem. At least when someone writes a narrative, it's always I'm gonna write it the way I saw it.
Yeah.
So I might see something, and then the way you like no.
And I might actually look at your narrative and say, you know, this is a bit boring. This is putting me to sleep. Let me just touch it up a little bit.
Like it was just so crazy, and because that's just how we work as human beings.
If we recognize that people can have experiences which they honestly interpret as being supernatural, but they might be mistaken. There might be something else going on. They might not really have the full picture. Combine that with the unreliability of, you know, by word of mouth and even by written record, bringing forward these narratives from long ago. Is it possible that a large amount of these folklore entities came into existence by exactly those means?
I'm trying to think of an example. Trying to think of an example where someone says something, and then because no one can ever disprove it, it's technically. But then again, you know, it goes both ways, because there's conspiracy theories. I mean, there's just the ridiculous types, which is like the Earth is flat, the Flat Earthers Society, or whatever. They believe that the Earth is flat. It's just ridiculous because scientific proof suggests otherwise. There you can argue because there is proof. But then in a situation where someone says something, and then they kind of have the backing to what they're saying.
Well, you said an interesting thing there. Something which can never be proved to be false.
Okay, there's just two ways to proving something. Just because you prove something, okay, just because you cannot prove something doesn't mean it exists.
I agree.
I mean that's one way to look at it. And then the other one is.
But if you cannot and this is my last question to you, because I think we can spend an entire day here.
I can go on for the next 20 hours, or because I just.
I love it. So, if you cannot prove the negative of something, if it's unfalsifiable, right?
Yeah.
Is there any benefit in believing that thing?
It's where the open mind comes into play.
Okay.
Having an open mind.
But I mean, what I like to, the way I like to view it.
I feel like it's accommodating.
So let me put it this way, maybe on the flat Earth one, right?
Yeah.
The flat earthers might be right.
No, they're not right.
If for example, I got into a spaceship,
Yeah.
and I went up, and I see, well,
That's a whole different.
yeah, but I
That's
mean,
perception. That's perception. Your perception of the Earth from the point of the spaceship. Just because you're technically looking at.
But let's say
from
I go all the way to the ISS, or maybe, you know.
Which okay, like it depends. Like it's flat in the sense that if you look at it in the 2D
it's
picture,
everything we perceive as flat.
It's just going to be.
But I mean, the flat
circle.
earthers, they say that there's a dome over the Earth. We can't go into space. They say that there's a. I'm very interested in flat Earth.
Wait, okay, we
Not
can go into
because-
space, but I have a phone and technically uses the satellite, so.
Exactly. So there's already all this evidence which shows us that and I believe that the Earth is a globe.
Yeah. Okay.
But
because if you didn't, I was just going to say you're crazy. No, like no.
Where's the open mind, man?
No, but like no. Listen, there's a difference between having an open mind and just being ridiculous.
Yeah, that might be going
just
to.
Like okay, listen, it's just like I can say if someone drives towards me, technically, if I can jump high enough, I can let the car pass me, and then I can,
Yeah.
It's possible. Sure, but let's not be ridiculous. Just there's a high likely chance of you getting bumped.
But what I'm trying to get to, if for example I become Elon Musk rich, and Elon Musk is now running.
He's not that rich.
He's pretty rich.
No, compared to you and me, he's very rich. But when compared to Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and just
I start my own space program and I go up, and suddenly I realize, shit, looks like there's this huge dome above us. We can't go up any further. I'm not saying that's likely, but if that happened, that would drastically reduce my confidence in the globe Earth model. So even though I think there is a massive amount of evidence which convinces me that the Earth is a globe, I can still imagine something which would drop my confidence, right?
It's always perception, because technically when you look, it's just like when you look at the sea, right?
Yeah.
From your point of view, it looks as though the sea at some point in time just, which is how Columbus, I think that's how he started exploring. I think my history is a bit, but I think that was the concept behind him doing the journeys and everything, because he thought to himself, beyond the horizon, because everyone thought the Earth just fell. That's how people thought. Which is why the church, they burnt. Was it was it not
Copernicus?
Yeah, Copernicus, because he theorized the whole concept of the sun and everything, and then because they didn't understand, or at least
it was seen as heresy.
Perception comes into play, because there was back then no proof to prove otherwise. They called him crazy man.
So. Last question. So even something as, which you and I both agree, as concrete, as close to a fact, like a literal concrete fact as we can get, that the Earth is a globe, even there I can imagine something which would falsify it. It doesn't mean that I reduce my confidence, but at least I can imagine something is falsifiable. When you have a belief where you can't even imagine how you would go to falsify it, what is the value in having that belief? And the church persecuting Copernicus is a good example. They have this belief that the Earth is a certain way, and it's unfalsifiable. Isn't that a recipe for believing something which isn't true? You can think about it, and you can get back to me if you want to.
I'm actually going to give you the answer now, because it's a pretty simple answer for me. Okay, let me just think of what you just said. Just because you have the belief, but oh my God, I'm lost. I don't know why I'm lost in my own thoughts. Just repeat that, because I actually had an answer when you were talking.
Okay, so if a belief is not falsifiable,
you can stop.
Yeah.
Okay. So think of it this way. Like I said earlier on, way earlier on, if for me, and this is how I always try to look at things. When I give my opinion, I always reiterate at the end of whatever I'm saying that it's my opinion. I cannot impose it onto you because you understand the world from a completely different perspective.
Okay.
I mean, sure, we might have similar perspectives about just how we conceive things, but it will never be the same just because of just, obviously so many factors. And because of that, I always think that if you don't question something, then what is the purpose of faith?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude.
You cannot have faith in something and don't question it. Like the more, like if you question it and try to understand it, that then only then can you have. Because I mean, obviously.
What if you question it, and you realize that there's no way that you can test this belief?
It's a bit tricky because everyone believes that at some point in time we're going to be able to do space travel, but then everyone believes it. Everyone at least wants to have the faith that we can at some point in time do it. Realistically, however, you need to be traveling at
faster than the
speed of light, which is ridiculous considering that like the closest we are right now to traveling, just the fastest way you can travel is by plane. Okay, maybe obviously with a rocket and you're going out of space, that's a whole different scenario. I mean, no one is just traveling back and forth from the moon. But when you're talking about just traveling back and forth on Earth, when you compare that speed to the speed of light, the possibility of us ever being able to achieve that is ridiculous, because obviously there's just, when you start to go deep into science, then you just start linking the way how when you increase speed and then mass just increasingly becomes big. If so, even the smallest increase in acceleration just increases the mass to just a ridiculous amount. So there's just so many limitations, but that's just that's the way we understand the world. We believe there's limitations to everything. I think that's just a good way to look at things. I think it's just how we are programmed, which is why I always say, like, it could just be a simulation, because maybe someone is just tinkering the buttons, and when someone sees, and then when the person sees that the simulation is going a bit off track, they just press
they're saying the agents after you.
Away. I mean, there's only so many geniuses we have had in, like, forever, going back. I mean, there's just so many, notable. Obviously, the most recent was Stephen Hawking, and even then, he had theories which could never be disproved, and they built the
Large Hadron Collider. No worries. For words.
They built that to try to prove the string theory, but they spent I think 20 billion now, and they still haven't been able to use it the way they thought they were going to. And then they've been able to achieve a certain speed of how a proton goes around it, which is I think at 20% of the speed of light. But that's just a proton, and compare that to a mass of just how you would want to travel, then it requires a massive amount of energy.
Even if
you cannot prove something technically, doesn't just mean that there's limitations to the proof that you, or at least the knowledge that you have.
So with the Large Hadron Collider, if they had this model which predicted something, and they created those conditions, and that thing didn't happen, isn't that already valuable in itself, that now they can say, my model might have a mistake in it?
That's where faith comes into play.
So they should stick to that model.
I always laugh when scientists say, no, we don't have faith, but like when you propose a theory, like the string theory, and you go out of your way to prove it, technically that's having faith in the theory that you had, because now you're trying to prove it, but that's based on the faith that you have that you're going to be able to prove it.
Okay, cool. Tatenda. Dude,
I can go on.
Yeah, really. If you want to meet again, I'm usually here on Saturdays.
Okay.
Dude, drop me an email. We can make arrangements. I'll take you for a coffee or whatever. Okay. I really enjoyed chatting to you. It was so cool.
I'll check out your YouTube actually.
Oh, I think you might enjoy it.
I think I might.
So nice meeting you, man.
Same here. Hey?
Okay.
Have yourself a good Saturday.
You too. Cheers.